What's up guys, Brian Bowman from Disc Golf Examiner here, and we've got the first new release unboxing from MVP Axiom and Streamline discs. As you may know, last year they had a bit of a out of production process for a lot of their mid-range molds because they got these great new machines that can do cool new stuff with plastic. So they had to retool some molds, and instead they just decided to start, redoing some things and really building nice new bag setups for us. And we've got the first brand new molds from MVP discs in the Ohm, which is a putter, and the Reactor, which is a mid-range. And I gotta say, in my first impressions, I thought I knew what I was getting with both of these discs, and I was wrong. They were totally different. Well, not totally different. They were different than what I thought they were gonna be, and I was happily surprised with that. So let's talk about the Ohm first. I got two Ohms here, one in a nice salmon kind of color and a nice dark gray. I really like the grays. And both of these discs, I'll be sure to show you in the close-ups, have some really cool natural swirls in them. Not like bursty, but if you see on the back, it is kind of bursty on the back. But the front is just really, really nice. So the Ohm is a putter that's coming in at 2.501. And the first thing that jumps out at me there was 5 glide. That's great. 0.1, it's going to go straight. 2, putter speed, whatever, that makes sense. But what I thought I was getting here, and I don't know why, I kind of thought that we were going to get a pilot with a gyro rim. But that is not what we got. I'm going to go ahead and show you some profile shots here. I have it compared here to an Envy and a pilot. And the Ohm is in the middle there. I've got it labeled. And the first thing you'll see is there's not, I don't even know if, I would say that there is a bead on this disc. It is really different though. It's not like it's a bead where there's a line of plastic. It's sort of like just barely a different angle than the plastic coming down on it. We'll take a close look in the light box there at the different profile shots. But that's what first got me, and I was like, okay, so this is like a beadless pilot. And then I put it in my hand, and you know what? In the hand, it feels like a proxy or an Envy. Honestly, it is shallower than a pilot by a good bit. It's shallower than a pilot, and the rim is a little bit different, but it's not crazy. I don't even know if it's shallower. It just kind of really feels like it. Maybe because the bead is a little less pronounced. So with the less pronounced bead, you're not feeling as much plastic in your hand. But I took these two Ohms out to throw them, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But all I can say is I was expecting a pilot sort of disc, and it really feels more like an NVR proxy in the hand. Nice and shallow, nice and stiff, really smooth. I gotta say, the finishing on these discs looks way better. Not that MVP has ever had a problem with like big crazy flashing or anything, but you can tell that there was some sort of change in the process here because these side profiles are really nice. Feel great in the hand. So that's the Ohm putt and approach disc, a 2.501, and I think the numbers really do add up to that. So I was not initially excited about the Ohm, but as soon as I got it out to throw it and got it in the hand, I was more excited. And then we got the Reactor. I got your standard Team Red and Team Blue here. Again, they have these really nice light white little naturally swirliness in them. And when I picked this up and put it in the hand, obviously very comfortable. The first thing I thought was it sort of feels like a flat top Vector. It's not flat top, but it's flatter than a normal Vector. And obviously I'll show you here the profile shots in the light box where I compared it to the Runway from Streamline discs and an Electron Vector, because I kind of thought that that's what it felt like when I picked it up. As you can see in the side profile, it's a little smaller of a disc in diameter than either of those discs, and you'll see the angles of the rim are much less severe. It's got a little more rounded of a nose and a little less severe of an arch here on the underside of the wing. This is a 5.5 negative 0.5, 1.5. So again, the 5 glide sticks out to me. I'm like, okay, I like glide. And then half a turn and a 1.5 fade kind of slots in line there, with a standard mid-range disc, but with some glide. 5 speed, nice and slow, on the slower side, honestly. But it feels really great in the hand. Feels like I said, a low profile vector. And we compared the profiles there. And I think it's time we just really get out into the field and see how they fly. All right, so we're going to start off our little experiment here with the ohm. And I do have to say, I will label on screen what's happening because the wind today was, as you see, not ideal. When I'm throwing down the hill here, you're getting a tailwind from left to right for the most part, and it's pretty gusty. As you can see, that ohm just kind of dropped out there. But what I will say is that with a heavy tailwind, they still glided really well. That 5 glide really came through. Here we see me throw in the reactor, and again, the first thing I noticed was, wow, that glide really just held up to that tailwind great. Very reliable flight. And one thing I really noticed about the reactor that was kind of unique was that it liked to go straight really long in the flight before it started to fade out. Like every time where I thought maybe I had flipped it too much or threw too straight, and I'm like, oh, fade, fade. As soon as I said that, it faded. So it was very dependable in that sense. All of my shots today landed within 4 or 5 feet of each other, except for the 1 or 2 shanks I had. But very dependable in both cases. And my first impression was those 5 glides are real. So here we're going to throw back up the hill. And when we come back up the hill, I'm going to have a headwind, and I'm going to be throwing uphill. So I was expecting the ohm, which again, we're going to start with the ohm here. I was expecting that it would flip over into a headwind. So I gave it a bit of hyzer, and what do you know? It goes absolutely dead straight till the end, which, is what I'm looking for most of the time in an approach disc. And into a headwind, I was, again, really concerned I was going to flip it. But no, glidey, 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 and then just a bit of fade at the end. Very dependable. Those 2 discs landed within a few feet of each other. First shank of the day. But it went really straight in the headwind. I was worried too that, this being a slower speed, it was going to flip over. Didn't flip over. Just went straight. Here you see I put a good hyzer line on it, and even into a stiff, gusty headwind, I could throw it hard enough that it still had enough speed to make it all the way to the target without worrying about it being crazy flippy. We're going to go with the ohm again here, and we'll start with the gray one. I'm throwing down to these 3 trees down here, and again, stiff tailwind, so I tried to put a little height on that one, and it glides right down to the center of the 3 trees that I was aiming for. And I'm going to try to throw this one a little higher to compensate for that tailwind. Get it up nice and high, and you see it just goes dead straight. And even with it dropping, because I compensated for that, I got a nice glide all the way down the hill. Okay, back to the reactor. Again, I'm aiming for those 3 trees down there, kind of in the center of them. And the wind let up a little bit, so you could really see how that flight there was pretty true to how it would fly with no wind, because I had a bit of a lull. Went out a little bit further to the right here and got a beneficial wind skip, hit the tree, and a nice 50-foot roll away. I called that an ace run because I hit the little guard on the tree. I'm going to gather up those discs. Now we're throwing back up with the ohm, which I really tried to power it up on that throw, and it went straight. It went straight into a stiff headwind, which, I've got to say that I think where this thing really lives is, like I said, between an NV and a proxy. It's more glidey than an NV and stays in the air a little longer, and with the not as flippy as a proxy, but feels just like them. Even when the wind gets under them and slows them down, they still kind of push forward, which was really nice. And then I got one more little look at this coming back up the hill, so you can really see how they are reacting in that headwind. Okay, so I'm throwing back up the hill here, and I'm aiming for that flapping flag you can see out there on the left side of your screen. You see what the wind's kind of doing. That was a 90% power rip on that putter, and you see it just held. It just went straight. Again, threw it nice and hard, little higher release, landed about 3 feet past the one before it. So consistent, very consistent. And here we are with the Reactor. My release point was off a little bit on that, but you can see how long it glided the whole way to the edge of the frame. It was in the air, fighting that headwind the whole way. So I was initially worried it was going to be flippy, but it's not. I'd say it's a touch more stable than a regular electron vector. So this Neutron is kind of like to me, if I were to compare it to another company's disc, it would be kind of like the difference between a Rancho rock and an Ontario rock. One's a little flatter, a little more stable, a little lower profile, so it works great in the wind. So that's our first look at the Ohm and the Reactor. Both of these discs surprised me. I don't have room for new discs in my bag, but I gotta say these both threw great. Great hand feel. The fit and finish on these is excellent. They're gonna have to go in my bag, I guess. But if MVP and Streamline and Axiom keep putting out great discs like this over 2020, which they said they're going to, then they're going to have no problem making up for those out-of-production discs from before. So once again, this is Brian Bowman from the Disc Golf Examiner. We're here with the unboxing from MVP for the first part of 2020. And until next time, keep banging those chains.